Hi, in this session we shall talk about EdTech or technology in education. And the very first question that we often get from people is, what exactly is EdTech and is it different from what we normally would call technology in education, for example the use of mobile phones in education? And the answer is that it's not really. I mean, essentially we're talking about the use of technology to help eventually improve learning levels of children. And it could be, as we can all imagine, what is technology keeps changing, and there was a program called CLASS more than 30-40 years back when it was the first use of computers in schools in India. But even before that there was talk about use of television, the countrywide classroom that using satellites and television broadcasting. These are all examples of use of education technology and would be EdTech. Today, of course, when we talk of EdTech, we refer a lot to computers and mobile phones, but it's not necessary. And I'm going to share some examples. So for example, let's first talk about video, because video is something which has kind of stayed over the years and it can be used effectively in education. It's the use of video, the power of video has not gone away, it's actually got expanded with the internet and mobile phones and sites like Khan Academy, for example. So what you're seeing here is 3 or 4 different ways that videos can be used, and the more obvious one is video for instruction. So you want to teach children about Pythagoras theorem and you have a video which not only has probably somebody explaining it, maybe some animations, and children see that, and that kind of helps them learn it. But there are other methods. One of them is the use of recordings of good teachers, and this is sometimes used to have a recording of a good teacher to show children and to get them learn. But an even more powerful way is to have these recordings of good teachers and use that to show other teachers and to use it for teacher training and teacher professional development. One variation of this that we have ourselves tried in the school that we ran more than 20 years back was where we provided a video camera to teachers who were teaching in the school, and they could book the camera. This is like some years back, so cameras were not as easily available as today. So teachers could book the camera, place it at the back of the classroom and basically get a video shoot of themselves. And then it was there. So often when you do this, teachers are nervous that they are being observed and mistakes will be pointed out and so on. So the rule that we followed was that the teachers could basically they would observe their class by themselves, and it was voluntary for them to first of all use the camera and secondly to show this to somebody else. So this is a variation of the idea of video recording good teachers, but also something that we found and others have also found a very, very effective use of video to kind of self-improve and get feedback on how one is doing. A third example of video that we have used partly for research and partly for teacher training is, once you have identified, usually through assessment, that children are going wrong in a particular area, you then take questions from that area and get children to solve them and to explain their reasoning, but video record this entire process. So if I know that there is a gap in how children are understanding concepts in, say, measurement, or mistakes they are making when they handle some kind of language learning concept, I then actually shoot a video where children are actually doing that and explaining why they are doing it. And there might be a facilitator who encourages them but is basically getting them to talk. And then these student videos are both used for research and used for teacher training. And the fourth kind of idea is community videos, often where you encourage children to shoot the videos. It could be teachers also, but essentially it's a combination of exposure, exploration, and using this as a medium. But I just gave these examples of video to talk about the fact that EdTech covers a pretty wide range of technologies and how they are used. And even coming to computers, I'm going to talk about how computers and allied technologies like mobile phones can be used in very different ways towards the ultimate cause of education. And except the first one on this list, which is a kind of a thing that should not happen, all the others are valid ways of using computers. Now, the first and something we see very common is computers as a fad. That is, a school either wants to say that we have computers, or in some cases where computers have been placed in a school either by a government or a group, but for whatever reason either the right software is not there, or the teachers are not trained, or sometimes even other resources like technology, the power may be erratic or not available. So, the computers are there, but they are not being used, or it is there and all these facilities are available, but the teachers are not clear how they are going to use it to achieve the learning goals that they have. So, I am calling this computers as a fad, present in school but not used, and this is what should not happen, of course, but all the others are valid ways and good ways in which computers can be used. Probably at the lowest level, so the difference in these methods are, it's kind of lower to more sophisticated and kind of getting to the core of using computers to improve learning. So, the second step is basically computers being used in non-educational school admin, things like payroll or communication, email. So, this is there, it is kind of easy to do, but it does not really affect the educational process in any way. Next step is to use it in admin processes, but educational admin processes. This could be things like starting with having the lists of all students and teachers on the computer, which can be quite useful, but it would also be assessment data, records, details of students, and this can be useful, still a very basic level, but clearly some use of technology and useful for everybody, the teachers, students and so on. The next level is where computers are used as an information source, either through internet access or by having encyclopedias or data available on the computer. There are also products available that kind of make this kind of information available on the computer. So, this is there, it is not integrated with the core learning process, but it is something that teachers may be using to develop material, or students may access for projects and so on. This would typically be used if you do not have enough computers, but you want to give some exposure to using them to students. The next level is where teachers regularly use computers to prepare for the class. That means that in the actual class they may not be using the computer, but they kind of use it to refer to material, to put together stuff, maybe make a presentation that they use. And the sixth example in the list is where they go one step further and actually use the computer to teach in the class. It could be using some variation of a smart board or a projection or activities, but now with typically one or a few computers in the class. And the last two are probably the more advanced form, but even there is an important distinction. This is where computers are actually being used in the classroom to help children learn, and children are actually working on the computer. And the only difference between 7 and 8, and I think it is an important difference, is that in one case we put the computers, you have a schedule, children are using it, there is some kind of program on that, so you know which is the software that has been designed for them, but there is no effectiveness measurement or external assessment or impact assessment. So, has this really helped the children learn better? The answer may be based more on the impressions that we have than on actual assessment data. So, the last two methods are the highest level of computer use, where computers are actually being used for student learning, being used by the children in the school in the classroom, and with one important difference. So, in both these cases there are computers, there is obviously some appropriate software that is being used. The difference is that in one case it is just used in this way and there is no external assessment or formal assessment of the impact. So, is this actually helping improve some parameter? It is kind of more that yes, we are using it and we can see that it is being used and teachers seem to like it, students seem to like it, and leaving it at that, versus the last, which is the highest level, which is doing this but also assessing this. And this makes a lot of difference, not because it tells us whether it is being used well or not, but more because it kind of gives you more useful feedback on how the use of the product can be made even more effective, or what is working well in the use of computers. So, this is a whole range. The list looked at computers, but many of these are nowadays possible with mobile phones and other methods also. So, this is a kind of range of use of EdTech. These days there is a lot of application of artificial intelligence, but we are slowly getting to a point where this will get integrated. So, I would consider this as part of the process where one is using these methods to help children learn better. But it is important not to underestimate older methods like phones, feature phones, simple use of video, because if used appropriately, that can be equally effective. Who are the target or stakeholders in the use of EdTech? And it's as we might imagine, and the best way to imagine this is to look at computer use or technology use outside the education space.